Please let me know from the exact place from which we should start. Okay. Let us begin the lectures for now. Shrivatsavam Shaklashodhi Kaustubhasya Shrivasaraghava Gurostanayam Tatasya Vidya Avapya Vibudhottamatam Dadhanam Kurve Sadahruti Gurum Karuna Karakhyam Lakshminatha Samarambham Nathayamuna Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Mande Guru Paramparam Yo Nityamachyuta Padambuja Yugma Rukma Vyamoha Tastaditarani Trinayamene Asmad Guror Bhagavatosya Dayaika Sindho रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वय भट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसार कुलशेखरयोगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणुपरकाल यतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम् श्रीमान् वेङ्कटनाथार्यः कवितार्किककेसरी वेदान्ताचार्यवर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदा हृदि. Am I properly audible or is it too low? Please clarify. I just saw the message. It says volume not okay.
No, it's very clear.
Okay.
At least we are finding it very clear.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So, please clarify from where we should continue. I remember teaching this part. Okay. We discussed...
Volume is not okay for me. Volume others can check. Why do you switch off the light?
Sir, if volume is not okay for you, please check your settings. We discussed about how a mukta can reappear. If you have attained moksha already, how can you come back on earth? Or if it is a nitya suri, nitya itself means eternal. Since eternity, that being has been in a state of moksha, how could that kind of a person come to the earth? That was also discussed. So we said that when Bhagavan himself comes, can't he make others to come? That was one. And secondly, we said that it is not necessary for the Atma to travel all the way from there to the earth. So by using the concept of Dharma Bhuta Jnana in Vishishtadvaitha, we explained that the Atma, despite staying there, can operate a Shuddha Sattva body on earth. Then we discussed about Nammalvar being an Amsha of Vishwaksena. We discussed about Vishwaksena himself and then Nammalvar, who was born on earth as his Amsha. Then we saw about Nammalvar's life. We saw a gist of Nammalvar's life. Now, as far as I can recollect, this part has not been covered. If it has been covered, please let me know. Okay. So I just don't remember whether this is the 28th class or the 29th class because
this was not covered.
Okay, great. So, as per the records, we have the Guru Parampara, right? We have the Guru Parampara with first Vishnu, then Lakshmi, then Vishwaksena, then Nammalvar. That is how it is coming in the Guru Parampara. So Nammalvar got Upadesha from Vishwaksena. How exactly did it happen? We saw the story of Nammalvar, right? As a baby, he was motionless. He was performing meditation. His parents left him. Did Vishwaksena come at that time? No. Vishwaksena came a little later. How did that story span out? Mahalakshmi desired that Nammalvar should get Upadesha. This child, which is literally an Amsha of Vishwaksena, it has been constantly meditating upon Bhagavan. Therefore, it is fit to be taught all the teachings, all the dharmic teachings, all the Vedic teachings. Now it might be asked, do you really require a guru? Let us take the case of Shatakopa. Of course, we require gurus. But in the case of Swami Shatakopa, who was at the time of birth itself remembering the stories of his previous life, would he still require a guru to teach him everything? Well, knowledge might have been carried on, but certain upadeshas, certain initiations into mantras and into proper formal diksha, for all of that, you would still require a guru, even if you have all the knowledge. Therefore, Bhagavan Sriman Narayana, as per the desire of Mahalakshmi, asked Vishwaksena to initiate Nammalvar. Nammalvar, who is also called a Shatakopa, who is the Amsha of Vishwaksena himself, was taught by the Amshi Vishwaksena. Vishwaksena performed Samashrayana, that is Pancha Samskara, Shri Vaishnava Diksha. It was performed for Nammalvar. They say it happened at when he was 16 years old. Now, why is this important to us? Because we discussed that another great saint had come and met Nammalvar. When Madhurakavi Alvar came and met Nammalvar and afterwards started getting taught by Nammalvar, eventually Madhurakavi Alvar also underwent Samashrayana. Now, Samashrayana and Sharanagati are mandatory aspects in Sri Vaishnavism. We have discussed that 100 times. So, it had to be performed for Nammalvar as well. Senesha Swayamagamya. Senesha, that is Isha, the controller. Controller of what? Sena. The Senapati of Sri Vaikuntha is Vishwaksena. So, Senesha Swayamagamya. Vishwaksena himself, having come to earth, Pritya Srinagarim Shubham, with a lot of love and affection towards the Alvar, he came to the earth, he came to the auspicious town of Alvar Tirunagari. This Tirunagari is called Srinagari in Sanskrit. Shatakopaya Munaye Tintrini Mula Vasine. For the sage Shatakopa, who, what was Shatakopa doing? We have seen that before. There was a, okay, those older slides are not here. Yes, here we can see, right? What was he doing? He was sitting under a tree. Which tree was he sitting under? Do you remember? There was a temple of Vishnu near where the Alvar's parents were living. They took their child there to the temple. But as the child was motionless, what did they decide to do? They decided to leave the child. And where was it left? It was left near a tamarind tree. That child started sitting in Padmasana inside a small hole of the tamarind tree, let us say, near the root basically. And it continued to, it started to meditate and it continuously meditated. It was meditating on Bhagavan before, it continued meditating again. In this way, the child was continuously there. So, Shatakopaya Munaye Tintrini Moolavasine. Shatakopa Muni was Tintrini Moolavasi. He was living near the roots of the tamarind tree. Tapadi Purvakam Mantram Dvayam Shlokadikam Kramat So the entire Pancha Samskara was done for the Alvar. The holy marks of Shankha, Chakra, they were all given to the Alvar. And as part of the ritual, before such things, the mantra was taught. Mantra here refers to Mula mantra, that is Ashtakshara. Dvaya refers to a very famous shloka for Sri Vaishnavas, which they are given Diksha into. That says that we have to, or rather, we surrender at the feet of Sriman Narayana. Of course, there are many meanings of Mula Mantra, Dvaya Mantra, and the Charama Shloka. I am just telling the most commonly accepted literal meaning here. For Sriman Narayana Charanam Sharanam Prapadye, Srimate Narayanaya Namah. That is the Dvaya. Then there is the word Shloka, referring specifically to the Charama Shloka. This is the Charama Shloka found in Bhagavad Gita. There are many Charama Shlokas, right? There is a Varaha Charama Shloka, there is a Charama Shloka in Ramayana itself. We have discussed all of it already. Correct? There is Rama Charama Shloka, there is Sita Charama Shloka also. When Sita says Papa Namva, Shubha Namva, that is one. When Rama says Sakrideva Prapannaya, that is one. When Varaha says Sthite Manasi Susvasthe, that is one. What we are referring to here is the one that comes in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, that shloka. So, the Alvar was initiated into all of these three. He was formally taught the three mantras along with their meanings, along with their esoteric meanings. Now, let us move on to Madhura Kavi Alvar. Madhura Kavi Alvar has found a guru. This guru has himself been properly initiated by Vishwaksena. He has got the Diksha. There are people who ask, if you say that Nammalvar was the first human, where did he get Diksha from? Where did he get Mantropadesha from? He got it from Vishwaksena. Ultimately, in any Guru Parampara, be it a Shri Vaishnava Guru Parampara, Madhva Guru Parampara, whichever Guru Parampara you see, Advaita Guru Parampara, no matter where you see, the first and foremost Guru is going to be the Almighty. After the Almighty, as a matter of fact, that needs to be kept in mind, especially for the modern followers of Shankaracharya. There are many modern followers who call Shankaracharya as the first Guru. I don't know how that started coming in. They call him Adi Guru Shankaracharya. However, if you really study about Shankara Bhagavat Pada, you would see that he had an Acharya, his Acharya had an Acharya, and so on. All of that is mentioned in the records that are completely accepted by the current Shankaracharyas. But the common man does not understand all of that. The point here is that in the case of this Sri Vaishnava Parampara as well, there was a divine connection. In this particular Parampara, in which Nammalvar came, Nammalvar was initiated by Vishwaksena. So Vishwaksena himself gave Diksha to Nammalvar. Now Nammalvar is going to become the Guru of Madhura Kavi Alvar. That is what you see in the background image. There is Madhura Kavi Alvar standing to receive Upadesha from Nammalvar. But who was this Madhura Kavi Alvar? Madhura Kavi Alvar was an Amsha of Garuda. How is Garuda celebrated? Garuda is celebrated as Vishnu's Vahana. Garuda is also celebrated as the flag banner of Vishnu. There is a very beautiful story about how Garuda became the flag banner of Vishnu. Garuda wanted to be above Vishnu, right? When Vishnu was Upendra. Let us go to that. Let us not discuss that story in detail right now. Let me just point out one thing. Garuda became the flag banner. That story that is there talks about that point of time when Vishnu was Upendra. Upendra as in the younger brother of Indra, who was next in command to Indra, something like that. He was having a position. Not the lord of Indra, but below Indra's position. It was in from this position that Vishnu performed a lot of leelas. Vishnu has taken lots of avatars, not just the 10 avatars that are popular. One such less known avatara is the Upendra avatara. Now, in this Upendra avatara, Vishnu performed a number of miracles. That Garuda, who was so powerful that even Indra could not defeat Garuda, that Garuda was powerless against Upendra. So, despite being Upendra, he showed that he is in fact the Lord of Indra and everybody else as well, as it is said in Ramayana, like what Maricha says, Raja Sarvasya Lokasya. He is the king of all the worlds. Devanam iva vasavaha. Like how the worlds of the Devas are ruled by Indra, like that the ruler of all the worlds is Rama. That is what Maricha says in Ramayana. So, Bhagavan was the Lord of all the worlds. There are certain modern interpreters of the Veda who misinterpret and misunderstand the story. They believe that because Vishnu is mentioned as Upendra, he would have been a minor deity at that point of time. What do they say? In the early Vedic days, Shiva and Vishnu were minor deities. They were not very popular. Only Indra was regarded as the supreme being. Later on, Shiva cult and Vishnu cult came into being. That is how lies are taught to us by certain interpreters of Western interest, or certain interpreters who have themselves been influenced by the Western ways of understanding. Why do I talk about the Western way of understanding as though it is evil? It is because if you want to understand an Indian scripture, you should try to understand it through the Indian ways of understanding. If you look at it from a totally different lens, you would not understand it properly. This is extremely important. You cannot appreciate the beauty of, let us say, Shankaracharya, for example, if you do not look at his background and his way of thinking. If you start by taking a very skeptic position, you would never be able to appreciate anything, as a matter of fact. So anyway, coming back to our story. So Garuda, he became the Vahana of Vishnu and also the flag banner of Vishnu at the same time. Garuda tried to show his smartness to Vishnu. It is a Leela, of course. Garuda himself is a Nityasuri. Garuda, being a Nityasuri, very long back, he had taken birth and he had been born to Vinata. Hence he got the name Mainataya. Now, Garuda's Amsha was Madhurakavi Alvar. This Madhurakavi Alvar, he was born in Chaitra month under Chitra Nakshatra. So the day when Chitra Nakshatra comes in Chaitra month, on Shukla Paksha Chaturdashi, that was when Madhurakavi Alvar was born. He was born in a place called Tirukkolur. Madhurakavi Alvar's father was a Samavedi Brahmana. He was a Samavedi Brahmana. who kept Purva Shikha. Now, what is this? What are we trying to say? There are many Brahmanas who keep Shikha at the back. They tie the Shikha at the back of the head. Then there are Brahmanas who tie the Shikha on the front side. So, his father was one such person. This Madhurakavi Alvar, in his childhood, he underwent studies, Vedic studies. Then he desired to do a Divyadesha Yatra. How can you call it Divyadesha Yatra? Divyadesha is defined as that temple which has been praised by the Alvars, is it not? No, not necessarily. Plenty of Divyadeshas, their prominence existed since long before the days of the Alvars. When the Alvars praised Divyadeshas, I believe we have already had a class on the concept of Divyadesha. When the Alvars praised Divyadesha, they talked about the Leelas of Bhagavan that took place in that area, after which the Divyadesha, the temple came into being. Bhagavan played a lot of Leelas at a lot of places. And these Leelas are still celebrated in those temples in the form of Sthala Puranas. So, Sthala Puranas and Mahatmyas are there to remind us of the stories that happened in various holy temples. So, Madhurakavi Alvar, as he had studied the scriptures and he had developed a lot of bhakti for Bhagavan, he decided to worship Bhagavan at different temples. So, he decided to go on a Divyadesha Yatra. In this manner, he went to North India. And when he was in Ayodhya, that was when he saw a great tejas. He saw a great bright shining light. He decided to start following it. And it led him all the way down south to Nammalvar. So, wherever the light went, he followed. It came near Nammalvar and it disappeared. Madhurakavi Alvar looked around and he saw Nammalvar. Then he asked a question and Nammalvar answered. That part we have already covered. Correct? So, the Alvar himself was already Madhurakavi Alvar was already a scholar before he met Nammalvar. But he needed a great guru. He needed a formal great guru who could help him in all aspects. If any of you is unmuted, kindly mute yourselves. Now we saw the story. We already saw about how Madhurakavi Alvar asked a question to Nammalvar, and Nammalvar opened his mouth for the first time and answered it. The question was about Jivatma, and the answer was perfect. That this is what the Jivatma would consume, and this is how the Jivatma would behave. Why? Because in the universe, this universe is the material universe, right? It is the physical universe. It is in Prakrita Loka. It is having Rajoguna as well as Tamoguna along with Sattva Guna. When the Jiva consumes anything of this nature, this mixed nature, which is called Mishra Sattva, naturally, the result would also not be perfect. For the result to be perfect, the input, for the output to be perfect, the input should be perfect. Correct? Our bodies are made of Mishra Sattva. We are Mishra Sattva in nature in a large number of ways. We are not Shuddha Sattva. We have seen that also. So, the nature of the Jiva is what Madhurakavi Alvar had in mind when he questioned Nammalvar. And as Nammalvar perfectly answered it, Madhura Kavi Alvar immediately confirmed 100% beyond doubt that this person here is the one that Bhagavan wanted to lead me to. He should become my guru and I should learn everything from a guru like him only. In fact, not guru like him, literally him. So he requested Nammalvar to teach him all the tattva, hita, and purusharthas. So, to learn the tattvas, to learn what is appropriate, and to learn finally about the four purusharthas also, Madhurakavi Alvar surrendered to Nammalvar. Earlier, when we saw the story of the first three Alvars, although the three met each other, they did not have a Guru Shishya Sambandha. But here, these are two Alvars who had a Guru Shishya Sambandha. Let us keep that in mind. Why are we saying, why are we talking about it in specific? Because we would like to highlight that Bhagavan brings us realized people, great saints, from time to time. From time to time, Bhagavan himself comes, and from time to time, he sends very great saints to teach us. All of these people need not necessarily belong to a single parampara. If you ask me whether Nammalvar was a disciple of Poigai Alvar, no, Poigai Alvar lived at a different point of time. Nammalvar lived at a different point of time. We do not hear about the Guru Parampara of Poigai Alvar coming down to Nammalvar. On the contrary, we hear about Nammalvar having Vishwaksena as his Guru. That makes him the fourth in the line of Guru Parampara as Vishnu, Lakshmi, Vishwaksena, Nammalvar. What about Poigai Alvar? What about Bhutat Alvar? What about Pei Alvar? What about Tirumarisai Alvar? We saw about some Alvars before Nammalvar also. What about all of them? So, the Acharya Parampara is different. The list of Alvars is different. Alvars were realized saints. Why do we praise them? We do not praise them simply because they were the Shishyas of their Gurus. Of course, whatever Madhurakavi Alvar composes is going to praise Nammalvar only. But we praise the Alvars not because they were great Shishyas to their Gurus. That quality was anyway there. But we praise them because each one of them was an amsha of a great realized being who was intentionally sent by Bhagavan to teach us dharma. That needs to be understood properly. So in Acharya Parampara, there is different. And where there is the list of Alvars, it is different. We should not mix them up and get confused. In this particular case of Nammalvar and Madhurakavi Alvar, Madhurakavi Alvar requested Nammalvar to be his guru and teach him all the Tattvahita Purusharthas. Bhagavan was pleased with the way Nammalvar answered Madhurakavi Alvar's question, and with the way Nammalvar was explaining Tattvahita Purusharthas. So, what did Bhagavan do? He gave darshan to Nammalvar. Vishnu came along with Lakshmi Devi and his parijanas. So, he came that way and gave darshan. In the photo, you can see only Vishnu giving blessings to Nammalvar. But as per the source, that I have been referring on this topic, the Muvairapadi appears to mention this way. So, yes, one more thing to remember. Do not assume that anything and everything that is represented in pictures is 100% accurate. A picture depends on who is making the picture, who is designing that photo, and therefore it is always subject to a lot of differences. But you do see in this image that there was a hole inside the tamarind tree where Nammalvar was sitting. Additionally, it is also showing a pitha on which he is sitting. That pitha is not mentioned in the original story. That is the difference. But anyway, Bhagavan appeared and gave darshan. And when Bhagavan gave his darshana, Nammalvar obviously greatly enjoyed the splendid sight of Bhagavan. He not only enjoyed and stopped at that, he also started summarizing the teachings of the Vedas. So, the Vedas, they really teach us about a lot of things. Sometimes they talk about stories. Sometimes they teach us concepts by means of exaggeration. We call it Arthavada. Sometimes they teach us prayers, mantra. Sometimes they teach us the way of life, vidhi. All of that is there in the Veda. The Vedas, sometimes they tell us the procedure to perform certain yajnas. Then at other places they say, this is the greatest being, you surrender to him. You worship him in this way, you worship him in that way. All the Brahma Vidyas are taught by the Vedas. What would you think is the most important part of the Veda? If we are to be asked that way, we would reply by saying that Upanishad is the most important part. Now there are many modern people who say Vedas are different, Upanishads are different. We are not those modern people. We traditionally call the Upanishad as Shruti Shiras, the head of the Vedas. That is how we explain the Upanishad, which is also called as Vedanta. Therefore, in Prasthanatrayi, as we have seen many times, we have Upanishads, we have Bhagavad Gita, and we have the Brahma Sutras. But what do the Brahma Sutras really do? They summarize the teachings of the Upanishads. What does Bhagavad Gita do? Bhagavad Gita also summarizes the teachings of the Upanishads. Krishna does not teach how to perform Ashwamedha Yajna. Correct? Ashwamedha Yaga, how should I do if I go and ask? The answer is not presented in Bhagavad Gita. But Krishna talks about something that is much more important. What is that? It is the theoretical aspect. What is the purpose of life? Who are we? Why are we here? If there is a supreme being, what is the nature of the supreme being? How are we to attain that supreme being? What are the roadblocks that may come when we try to attain the supreme being? All of these have been taught to Madhurakavi Alvar by Nammalvar. But when Nammalvar saw Bhagavan, he overflowed with love. And realizing that every single tiny part of the Upanishad is actually only praising Bhagavan, Nammalvar summarized these teachings of the Upanishads, which are considered to be the ultimate teachings of the four Vedas. Let us remember this. Calling Upanishads as Shrutishiras, it is not restricted to the followers of Bhagavad Ramanuja. Of course, Bhagavad Ramanuja has said it. Shruti Shirasi Vidipte Brahmani Srinivase. At the start of Sri Bhashya, Bhagavad Ramanuja, he composed a shloka. Akhila Bhuvana Janmasthema Bhangadi Lile. That is the first line. How many lines does the shloka have? 4 lines. Or rather, 2 long lines maybe. Say it that way. But what does Bhagavad Ramanuja say about the Upanishad? He explains Sriman Narayana, that is Srinivasa, as the Parabrahman. Okay, who is this Brahman? He is that Brahman who has been revealed and praised and adored by the Upanishads. Therefore, Bhagavad Ramanuja says, Shruti Shirasi Vidipte Brahmani Srinivase. Brahmani Srinivase, in that Brahman, in that Srinivasa, in that Sriman Narayana. Bhavatu Mama Parasmin Shemushi Bhakti Rupa. So, all the Vedas are teaching about the auspicious qualities, not necessarily the greatness in terms of might and power, but also numerous other auspicious qualities. As a matter of fact, we believe that the Vedas also fail to describe Bhagavan completely. Even the Vedas are unable to describe him completely. Yet, they do make an attempt. And this attempt is what has been summarized by Nammalvar when he composed parts of Divya Prabandham. He composed, now Divya Prabandham has 4,000 verses in total. Nammalvar composed 4 parts inside of that. What did he compose? He composed Tiruvaimozhi. He composed Tiruviruttam. He composed Tiruvasiriyam. And he composed Periya Tiruvandadi. About these we will see later. But the point here is, Nammalvar became one of the most important contributors of the Divya Prabandham. Secondly, Nammalvar directly had the darshan of Bhagavan. The Alvars have had it, right? Poigai Alvar, Budat Alvar, Pei Alvar, they had the darshan. We already saw the story. Andal will have the darshan. Periya Alvar will have the darshan. So, among the Alvars, it is very clear that they are the dear ones of Bhagavan. But in the case of Nammalvar, there are certain specialities. What are the specialities of Nammalvar? He received Upadesha from Vishwaksena and would later start the Guru Parampara. We saw a small part of that, correct? About what Nammalvar is going to do several centuries later, during the time of Nathamuni. Nammalvar is going to give Upadesha to Nathamuni. And from there onwards, the Guru Parampara of Sri Vaishnavas, which is celebrated everywhere, is going to come. What is so special about this specific Guru Parampara? Madhura Kavi Alvar studied Vedas even before meeting Nammalvar. That is what we are told. Yet we do not talk about that Parampara. Who was Madhura Kavi Alvar's Guru? Who was that guru's guru? Who was that guru's guru? We do not see any of that. Why? Why is it that we celebrate this Guru Parampara so much? Because all the important teachings of the Vedas were summarized by Nammalvar in the form of 4 prabandhas. And this summary was prepared in the Tamil language, which is the local language. The people of that time, today we might find that Tamil to be extremely difficult. But in those days, people wouldn't have found it to be that difficult. The language has evolved and degenerated over time. But back then, it was super beautiful. That is how the story of Nathamuni also unveils, right? Nathamuni happens to hear one of the songs written by Nammalvar. And he is curious to learn more. He tries to find out more. He finally gets the darshan of Nammalvar. But Nammalvar reveals not only his own works, but also the works of the other Alvars. That is how the Divya Prabandham became 4,000 in length. So what are we seeing here? We are seeing that among the Alvars also, Nammalvar has a speciality. He is celebrated in the Guru Parampara because he revealed these teachings to Nathamuni. And of course, we should remember that Nathamuni himself was also well educated before he met Nammalvar. Nathamuni was not an illiterate. He was already a great scholar. But the exact teachings of the Vedas, the exact teachings of the Upanishads were brought out in a very beautiful way, in seemingly simple verses that appear to talk about bhakti. They appear to be talking about bhakti. A lot of people, once again, we have discussed this before, a lot of people think that bhakti is inferior to jnana. That is not so. Bhakti, which is devotion, it is a form of jnana, and also this bhakti does not imply any kind of stupidity. Because where there is bhakti, there is emotion. There is an inherent assumption among people that it is emotional and therefore it is not so intelligent. This accusation is thrown on the Divya Prabandham. It is thrown on Tiruvaimozhi, which was composed by Nammalvar. It is thrown on Bhagavad Ramanuja. He is also often accused of being a very, very emotional person rather than being a logical person. But that argument is nonsense. How logical he was is something that you would know only if you study his works. But people do not want to do that. They see the emotional side and immediately conclude that these people were emotional and not logical or knowledgeable. That is not so. So we should ensure, at least from our side, that we do not make this mistake. So if a person is a great bhaktiman, we should not assume that such a person is not so intelligent and not so knowledgeable. That is not so. We would only be wrong in assuming that way. The greatest of the scholarly people have behaved like madmen with bhakti, overflowing with bhakti. They would go sing praises of Bhagavan, they would dance before him, they would do all sorts of things to display their bhakti. That is a very, very refined state and not a state at the bottom. It is easy to develop bhakti. For that reason, a lot of people think it is so easy. What is the big deal? But it is not easy to develop pure bhakti. Nammalvar showed pure bhakti as he did meditation. He performed it with bhakti bhava. And he did it continuously for over 16 years. You do not see people doing it that way. Even if I try, If I try meditating continuously, do you think I will be able to cross 24 hours? I am sure I cannot cross. I am sure I cannot cross. I have never tried it, but I am sure I cannot cross. So, developing a sense of devotion is easy, but developing sustained devotion, which is continuously lasting, is difficult. And even with that devotion, following the scripture properly is not so easy. We might want to follow and still miss out. In fact, in many cases, we intentionally commit mistakes as well. We are not as devoted as we would like to be. We see that problem. But Nammalvar did not have any such problem. He did not have any such problem. And he, therefore, taught everything to Madhurakavi Alvar. Now, this Madhurakavi Alvar himself is an Amsha of Garuda. Do you think Garuda does not know the Veda? Garuda knows the Veda. People who want to master the Vedas pray to Garuda. Garuda is a master of the Vedas. Yet, that Garuda is also performing Leela by coming down and trying to become a Shishya of Nammalvar so that this divine will of Bhagavan could be fulfilled. So, Garuda is learning from Vishwaksena, but Garuda is in the form of Madhurakavi Alvar, and Vishwaksena is in the form of Nammalvar. They might appear to be ordinary humans, but when you try to understand the works composed by the two of them, you would understand the greatness of the works. In the beginning of Rahasya Trayasara, Swami Vedanta Deshika praises Madhurakavi Alvar. Madhurakavi Alvar had a unique approach. He requested Nammalvar to be his guru. He learned the Vedas. What do the Vedas do? They praise Bhagavan. He learned all the Vedic teachings. He has done all of that. Okay. But if you look at the work composed by Madhurakavi Alvar, what did Madhurakavi Alvar do? He composed only 11 verses, 11 pasurams, 11 small songs. And all of these were in praise of Nammalvar himself. Madhurakavi Alvar composed 11 pasurams, 11 verses. And these 11 verses, all of them were praises of his Acharya, Nammalvar. How do you then explain the concept of bhakti? Nammalvar taught him to go and pray to Bhagavan. But Madhurakavi Alvar has ignored that and has decided to pray to his Acharya, Nammalvar, who is not Bhagavan. How is this to be explained? Do we understand it as Nammalvar not teaching properly? Or do we understand it as Madhurakavi Alvar not understanding properly? Or do we understand it in a third different manner? Obviously, Nammalvar was the Amsha of Vishwaksena. He cannot be teaching wrong things. Madhurakavi Alvar is also an Amsha of a divine being. He also cannot be learning incorrectly. Their births themselves are divine. They have a special reason for their existence and for whatever Leela they are performing here. So, when Madhurakavi Alvar learned from Nammalvar, he understood all the concepts. He understood that Narayana is Parabrahman, you have to perform Sharanagati to him. If you perform Sharanagati, you will attain moksha. All of that has been understood. Yet, he composes verses that are going to praise Nammalvar. Why? Because Acharya Sharanagati is so great that it is considered to be superior to even Bhagavat Sharanagati. It is the surrender of the Shishya to the Acharya that is taken to be superior to surrender that is performed to Sriman Narayana himself. This is established in the Puranas. This is also established through the story of Nammalvar and Madhurakavi Alvar. This Acharya Bhakti that he had, it is a very easy route for us to improve in our lives. That is what Swami Deshika presents to us at the start of Rahasya Trayasara. So, these 11 verses which were composed by him, called Kanninun Siruttambu, these 11 verses, this Kanninun Siruttambu, it is taken to be as powerful as Sanskrit mantras, but these mantras are in Tamil. And it is indeed by reciting Kanninun Siruttambu that much later, centuries later, Nathamuni managed to get the darshan of Nammalvar. So, where is the greatness of Madhurakavi Alvar? He is the one who composed a way to invoke his Acharya. And this way was absolutely important because without this, without the work of Madhurakavi Alvar, Nathamuni would not have been able to invoke Nammalvar. And the Acharya Parampara that we say after Nathamuni, there were so many people. There was Yamunacharya eventually, and in a few centuries, not after many centuries, in just a few centuries, there was Yamunacharya, and 2 generations after him, a younger contemporary, but a Shishya of his own Shishyas. That is how Bhagavad Ramanuja was. So, if Bhagavad Ramanuja learned from Mahapurna, Goshti Purna, and other such great Acharyas, it was because they learned from Yamunacharya. In this manner, each person learned from their Guru, their Guru, their Guru. It goes till Nathamuni. But who did Nathamuni himself learn from? Nathamuni learned these teachings from Swami Nammalvar. How was he able to learn these teachings? By invoking Nammalvar. How was he able to invoke Nammalvar? By using the compositions of Madhurakavi Alvar. Thus, it is by the teachings of Madhurakavi Alvar that the Sri Vaishnava Parampara is there even today. So, although he composed only 11 verses, and although those 11 verses were all in praise of his Acharya, he not only preserved an entire Parampara, but also he taught the greatness of Acharya Bhakti, the Bhakti that you show towards your Acharya. That is another great concept. There is the Deshika explains in great detail about Bhakti shown to the Guru or Acharya. In Rahasya Trayasara, Deshika explains it to a great detail. We are not going there yet. We are still at the time of the Alvars. After the Alvars, we will come to the Acharyas. At that point of time, when we come to Deshika, we will see his works. But for now, let us understand that Madhurakavi Alvar, although he was a Shishya and he composed very little, it does not make him a very inferior being or anything. He was also divine. He was divine in his own way. He was the Shishya of Nammalvar, who was himself a very divine being. So let us not compare them and say, oh, Nammalvar was superior, Madhurakavi Alvar was inferior, nothing like that. All the verses composed by both of them are all equally authentic. There is nothing as this is superior or more authoritative than the other. There is no point, or there is not a single percentage of even disagreement between the words of Nammalvar and Madhurakavi Alvar. Therefore, when it comes to the Alvars, we are to treat all of their works as being of the same level of authority. And how much authority do they have? In Sri Vaishnavism, they have 100% authority. Because they were divine beings who came to come do divine things on earth. So, if that is understood, I would like to conclude today's class. If any of you has any question, feel free to ask.
Now, only my question is, common people like us know how to get a guru.
Firstly, if you want a guru, okay, well, let us look at it very practically. The first and foremost thing is, what do you need a guru for? Is it to just get a mantra diksha? Now we talked about Vishvaksena, Senesha Swayam Agamya. We said that mantra, the Ashtakshara, Dvaya, at the Charama Shloka, all those mantra dikshas were given to Nammalvar. Okay, now there are certain people who require gurus for mantra diksha. There are certain people who require gurus to learn specific things. For example, Bhagavad Ramanuja studied Ramayana from Tirumalai Nambi. So he would go to the Tirupati hills, and at the foothills of Tirupati, Bhagavad Ramanuja was studying. That was there. Then there are people who require Guru Sambandha for general knowledge. Then there are people who require Guru Sambandha because they themselves want to become gurus in future. Then there are some people who require Guru Sambandha or who seek Guru Sambandha so that they can attain moksha. So what is the purpose? That has to be understood properly. I'm saying this because I have seen a large number of people. They say, we have got Diksha. We have got Diksha from the Shankaracharya of Puri, they say. What Diksha have you got? Have you got Sannyasa Diksha? No. Have you got some other great Advaita Diksha? Have you become an Avaduta? No. Have you become this? No. Have you become that? No. What Diksha did you have? I got a Mantra Diksha. So they would have gone to the Acharya, they would have received a mantra, learned a mantra, and the Acharya would have, after teaching the mantra and its meaning, he would have told them how to recite, when to recite, and to recite repeatedly at the appropriate time, by doing which they will get elevated. That is also that could also be one of the reasons why you are seeking a guru. But the most important thing is, if we want to learn Sanatana Dharma properly, if we want to attain the final goal as taught by Sanatana Dharma, then we compulsorily require Guru Sambandha. Remember, Nammalvar in his birth, as a baby, he had the knowledge. But how did he have the knowledge? From the previous life. In the previous life, how did he have the knowledge? Through Guru Sambandha. So somehow or the other, for Jiva it comes that way. If you look at the root of the Nityasuri has infinite knowledge by nature itself, fundamentally. We are not Nityasuris, we are Baddha Jivas. Therefore, the only route for us is to listen to what the scriptures themselves have said. Tad vijnanartham, so guru meva abhigachet. That is what the scriptures have said. That is what the Vedas have said. And likewise, everywhere it is said that you have to go to Guru. Shiva himself tells Parvati in Padma Purana. He says, Yesham Guru Kripa Nasti Adho Gachanti Parvati. Those who do not have the Kripa, the compassion of the Guru, how would they get Guru Kripa? They would get it by the association with the Guru and through appropriate behavior with the Guru. Tat vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, as Krishna says in Gita. That way they will get it. And if they do not get the Kripa of the Guru, Lord Shiva says they will fall down. Adho gachanti. So eventually, people who try to perform sadhanas or people who try to elevate themselves without the assistance of a guru, they would definitely fall down. But if that is your aim then, and you want a guru, then how do you get a guru? What is your sampradaya? Let us start with simple things. Let us say your parents followed a particular sampradaya. How do you find a guru in that sampradaya? Very simple. Go to any matha of that sampradaya, get in touch with any acharya, ask about it. Maybe the acharya himself will teach you, or maybe his shishya will teach you, or maybe some other great scholar will teach you. But it is not very difficult to get gurus. As a matter of fact, in South India, it is quite easy. In North India, it is much more difficult because there are a lot of fake people, there are a lot of uneducated people, there are a lot of people who used to have great paramparas and great acharyas, but since the Mughal era or since the British era, they have been suffering a lot. For which reason they have preserved their great history, but are unable to produce a large number of great gurus properly. So the institutions are still there in much of India, but here and there we see that they are having problems in producing great scholars. As far as a Shishya is concerned, Swami Deshika says Shishya should have a number of qualities to be fully qualified to learn from the Guru. Just having interest in learning is not enough to get Guru Sambandha. That is why Deshika says Sadbuddhi Sadhu Sevi Samuchita Chaita Tattva Bodha Bhilashi. So Swami Deshika lists lots of qualities that are required for a Shishya. And when a person has all of these qualities, that person becomes the perfect Shishya. And the perfect Shishya who is satisfying all of these qualities, Sadbuddhi, Sadhu, Sevi, Samuchita Charita, Tattva Bodha Vilashi, Shushrushastyaktamanah, Pranipatana Parah, Prashnakalah Pratikshah, Shantodanto Nasuyu, Sharanamupagata Shastra Vishwasashali, Shishyah Praptah Pariksham, Krutavidabhimatam, Tatvata Shikshaniyaha. Which person is 100% fit to be taught? Swami Deshika says that person should have a knowledge of good things and should have genuine interest in serving Bhagavan and Bhagavatas. That person should have righteous conducts and follow Dharma Shastras. That person should be eager to learn and practice. Learning is, many people these days, they say they want to learn, but very few of them are interested in practicing. So if you try to get an offline guru, and if the guru is a traditional person, naturally the guru would expect you to practice everything that is taught. I have seen, be it in Kanchi Shankara Matha or be it in Ahobila Matha, I have seen how strict they are towards the students. So they will be strict, and the Shishya should have eagerness in following, not just in learning. And there should be willingness to serve the Guru, right? Sevaya, says Krishna. And of course, ahankara and mamakara should be kept behind before going to the Guru. If the Guru says one thing and the Shishya thinks, what is this Guru saying? I don't want to believe in what he is saying. Let me consider myself as a bigger scholar than him. Let me blabber as I please. This happened very recently. One person came to me with great respect. Well, that person was respecting me a lot. Then the person cited some book, and that book apparently says that the entire world will become Sanatani by 2030 or something like that. So I was asked about that book. I said that is not going to happen. The entire world will not become Sanatani by 2030. Mark my words, it will not happen. I would love it to happen, but that is not what we perceive through Anumana or through Pratyaksha or through the scriptures. We do not see that. But then the person started saying, no, a very great saint has predicted this. This book is extremely popular. Everybody believes in it. Now what has happened? The person is suddenly stopping to show Shishya Lakshana. The person does not want to believe what he is taught. The person thinks he is knowledgeable enough to argue and reason that whatever book he has read from wherever, that is authentic. No, that should not be there. So when you are going to a guru, you should keep aside all your understanding of your own level of knowledge. You should go there as a person who has nothing. The way Arjuna went to Krishna in the 7th shloka of the 2nd chapter of Gita, Arjuna says, I do not know what is right and what is wrong. Therefore, I surrender to you. That is the way we should behave. When we have these kinds of qualities, I'm not explaining in detail. Of course, there are 15 qualities listed in the shloka in Nyasa Vimshati by Swami Deshika. But by explaining that itself would take an entire hour. Well, we are not going to do that. The point is the intent, why we want a guru, that has to be clarified. Then Shishya Lakshana has to be developed. Then pray to Bhagavan for a good guru, and Bhagavan will ensure that you get a guru eventually. It is as simple as that. If you say, no, I am not so good at praying, maybe I don't pray to Bhagavan properly, maybe Bhagavan will not give me, what will I do? I am a great papishta. No problem. You seek the gurus who are nearby or easily accessible. You seek, as I said, which sampradaya do you belong to? Is there a matha of that sampradaya nearby? Is there an acharya? Maybe the acharya is not near you. Maybe he is 500 kilometers away. But if you want to be a shishya, you should take the effort to travel and meet him. Bhagavad Ramanuja traveled that way to meet Goshti Purna. Goshti Purna said, I will meet you on another day. Bhagavad Ramanuja returned. Then Bhagavad Ramanuja went back another day. Again, he was told that he would be seen later. In this manner, for 18 times, again and again and again, Bhagavad Ramanuja traveled. All the way, that too by foot, not through these modern vehicles that we have today. That is the level of bhakti that Shishyas used to have in those days. Now, I'm not saying that every single person should compulsorily have that level of bhakti to be taught. We cannot expect it from everybody today, and we are very practical people in that aspect. Yet, if you want a guru, you should not expect the guru to come to you automatically. You should go and seek the guru. There are people who argue, they say that when the time is right, guru will appear. That when the time is right, how will the time ever become right? But if you do actions the way you are doing today, will the time automatically become right? It will not automatically become right. It will become right only when your karma phalas are aligned correctly. They will align correctly only when your karma phalas are all correct. When they are, there is no guarantee that they would all be correct, because the phalas that you are receiving could be results of some past life in which you might have actually committed crimes. So there are a lot of unknowns there. There is no guarantee that your karma phalas would be so anukula that you would get guru sambandha so well. So it is wrong to assume that we would automatically get a guru at the right time. There are many people who live their entire lives, they do not get a guru. We should keep that in mind, and therefore we should take the effort ourselves to find the guru. I'm not really sure if I have answered your question.
No, you have answered very
Clear
well.
manner,
I
but
think now maybe I should know, and we should know more about how to be a good disciple. Thank you so much.
any other question? Okay, if there's no other question, we'll conclude the class.